Hi there, welcome to Aether. In this session, we will discuss in detail about Amazon EMR and Amazon CloudFront services. We'll discuss in detail what is Amazon EMR and terminologies involved like job flow, master group instance, core group instance, task group instance, and at the end of Amazon EMR session, we'll have a detailed lab session on it. Further, we will continue with Amazon CloudFront. We'll talk about CloudFront and key terminologies. We'll talk about content delivery network benefits and key features of CloudFront. At the end, we'll have a lab session on CloudFront. So let's begin with Amazon EMR. Amazon EMR is AWS service that allows users to launch and use resizable Hadoop clusters inside of Amazon's infrastructure. Amazon EMR greatly simplifies the setup and management of the cluster of Hadoop and Map Reduce components. EMR instances use Amazon's pre-built and customized EC2 instances which can take full advantage of Amazon's infrastructure and other Amazon services. These EC2 instances are invoked when we start a new job flow to form an EMR cluster. A job flow is Amazon's term for the complete data processing that occurs through a number of compute steps in Amazon EMR. A job flow is basically specified by MapReduce application and its input and output parameters. The MapReduce framework splits the input data into smaller fragments that are described to the nodes that compose the cluster. Here, job flow is executed on a series of EC2 instances running the Hadoop component that are broken up into master, core, and task clusters. These individual data fragments are then processed by MapReduce application running on each of the core and task nodes in the cluster. Further, based on Amazon EMR terminology, we commonly call the MapReduce applications a job flow. The master, core, and task cluster groups perform the following key functions in the Amazon EMR cluster. Here, master group instance manages the job flow and allocates all the needed executables, jars, scripts, data shards to the core and task instances. The master node monitors the health and the status of the core and task instances and also collects the data from these instances and writes it back to Amazon S3. The master group instances serve a critical function in our Amazon EMR cluster. If a master node is lost, you lose the work in progress by the master and also the core and task nodes to which it had delegated work. Further, core group instance members run the map and reduce portions of our job flow and store intermediate data to the Hadoop distributed file system storage in our Amazon EMR cluster. The master node manages the task and data delegated to the core and task nodes. Due to HDFS storage aspects of core nodes, a loss of the core node will result in data loss and possible failure of the complete job flow. The core group runs tasks and maintains the data retained in Amazon EMR cluster. A loss of a core group node may cause data loss and job flow failure. Further, the task group here is optional, so it can do some of the computational work of the map and reduce job but does not have HDFS storage of the data and intermediate results. The lack of HDFS storage on these instances means the data needs to be transferred to these nodes by master for the task group to do the work in the job flow. The master and core group instances are critical components in Amazon EMR cluster. A loss of node in the master or the core group instance can cause an application to fail and need to be restarted. Further, whereas task groups are optional because they do not control a critical function of Amazon EMR cluster. In terms of jobs and responsibilities, the master group must maintain the status of task. A loss of node in the master group may make it so the status of running tasks cannot be determined or retrieved and lead to the job flow failure. See here, the task node is only responsible for running tasks which are delegated to it from the master group and utilizes data maintained by the core group. A failure of a task node will lose any interim calculations. The master node will retry the task node when it detects failure in the running job. Because task group nodes do not control the state of jobs or maintain data in Amazon EMR cluster. As said, task nodes are optionals, but they are one of the key areas where capacity of Amazon EMR cluster can be expanded or shrunk without affecting the stability of the cluster. Further, let's move to the lab session of Amazon EMR.
Log into AWS account and select EMR service from the drop-down service list. In this lab we will learn about setting up EMR service and create a Hadoop instance over EC2 instance. Create an EMR cluster as shown on your screen. Follow the steps shown. It takes little time while creating Hadoop cluster. It is provisioning. The provisioning time may take little longer. Wait till it is not provisioned completely. Now we have to configure EC2 instance. We have to change security group rule for the instance. Do as shown on your screen. Basically we are trying to configure Hadoop on our instance. So we need to provide permission to get into our instance. So we will allow all traffic from Now as you can see Hadoop is installed on our instance. Next we will configure it. Now we will SSH to our instance using command prompt. We have our instance key pair value. So let's get into it. You can see EMR on your command prompt. From here we will install Hadoop on our instance and do some operations. Watch it carefully. As you saw, we performed several tasks on EMR using Hadoop. We make changes to EC2, S3, and other services as well. If you find any problem with this session, please watch it again. You must be familiar with Hadoop environment.
Welcome back to the session. Hope you all had a great Amazon EMR session. As said earlier in the agenda, we will continue about Amazon CloudFront in the same session. So in this session, we'll be talking about Amazon CloudFront. We'll talk about Content Delivery Network, its benefit, the key terminologies involved into it, and discuss Amazon CloudFront. Last, we will have a lab session on CloudFront. So let's begin with Content Delivery Network. Content Delivery Network is a system of distributed server or network of servers that deliver web pages and other web content to a user based on geographic locations of the user, the origin of the web page and content delivery server. For understanding it better, let's take an example. Let's take a word map. Let's assume that we have a website in India and this website serves across the world. We have many users around the world. So whenever a user sends a request to my website, which is hosted in India, users are making requests here from all over the world. So they'll get different latencies. People in the nearby areas will get lesser, whereas the people who are not near, they'll get more latency. This is how it works without the CDN when you directly connect to the web server using direct internet lines. It'll work good in India or the places where the latency is less. So in order to solve the problem for the user where the latency is not less, there is a solution to it and it is called CloudFront. CloudFront uses CDN technology. Here are some key terminologies which are involved into it. The first thing is that edge location. As said earlier in the sessions, that edge location is the location where content is cached, and these are available at various locations in the world. There are currently around 56 edge locations. The term origin is the origin where our web server is, and in our case it is India. Whereas in AWS terms, origin can be S3 bucket, EC2 instance or Route 53. And the term distribution is the name given to CDN, which consists of edge location. So when we create AWS network with edge locations, it is called distribution. In order to understand the working of content delivery network, let's see a world map. See, we have a web server in India and has users around the world. So what happens is when a user requests to get content, the request will be forwarded to edge location. Edge location will check in its cache for the requested content. If the requested content is not there, then it will further send the request to the server which is in India. The edge location, the server in India will send back the requested content to the edge location and then it will be forwarded to the user. So next time when any other user requests the content from our website, the user will get the content much faster than the previous user as it is present in the cache of edge location. See, there are various benefits of content delivery network. It improves customers' experience with faster page loads, bounce rate goes down and customer stays on your site longer. With content delivery network, now the content is cached to the edge location and loading time is almost nil. There are search engine optimization benefits also. For any site to get into the top position, its speed is important. User does not want to wait for the site to load. If site is slow, user will go. With CDN technology, the site speed is increased many folds and loading time is reduced drastically. Further to the benefits is mobile users on limited bandwidth connection gets to your site faster. People with lower internet speed on phone can also access the site without waiting to load content. CDN takes load off your web server. Now the requests are not going to web server directly. Further, it reduces cost. With content delivery network, your content is once cached from the server to edge location is now can be used, so the cost of downloading the content from the server is much less. So the cost of downloading the content from the server is almost nil. It makes your site more reliable and scalable, provides protection, redundancy across multiple servers or location. So now let's discuss what is CloudFront service. Amazon CloudFront is a web service that speeds up distribution of your static and dynamic web content such as .html, .css, .js and image files to your users. CloudFront delivers your content through a worldwide network of data centers, as we said, called edge locations. When an end user requests content you are serving with CloudFront, the user is routed to the edge location that provides a low latency, so content is delivered with best possible performance. CloudFront retrieves it from Amazon S3 bucket or an HTTP server or web server that you have identified as the source for the definite version of your content. To understand the working of CloudFront, let's see the image below. See, CloudFront is very cost effective. User has to pay according to his or her business logic. Amazon CloudFront has many important features. It provides RTMP or flash and HTTP delivery. With the CloudFront, you can create your distribution in two types. So one is RTMP and other is HTTP or web distribution. Both are content delivery protocols. RTPM is used for server media file over the internet using flash, and HTTP is used to serve your content using web technology. CloudFront provides both. User has the right to choose and as per the need. With CloudFront provides, user can change or set request for time to live. Earlier it was 60 minutes. User can set it to 0 also. Amazon CloudFront uses cache control headers to determine how frequently each edge location gets an updated version of the file from the origin. Further to the terminology, adaptive bitrate streaming, it is a technique employed in video streaming which detects end user's bandwidth and calibrates the video by bitrate accordingly to guarantee the best viewing experience. This works by encoding source into streams of different bitrates, and then each stream is fragmented into smaller multi-second chunks. A manifest file is used at client's end to make it aware of available bitrates, which in turn uses the information to adapt bitrate to end users' available resources. CloudFront provides this to the user. User experiences the content according to the internet speed and bandwidth. For Amazon S3 origins, CloudFront accepts requests in both HTTP and HTTPS protocols for objects in CloudFront distribution by default. CloudFront then forwards the request to your Amazon S3 bucket using the same protocol in which the requests were made. Many companies that distribute content via the internet want to restrict access to documents, business data, media streams, or content that is intended for selected user. For example, users who have paid a fees securely serve this private content using CloudFront. You can invalidate most of the type of objects that are served by the web distribution, but you cannot invalidate media files in Microsoft smooth streaming format. When you have enabled smooth streaming for the corresponding cache behavior, in addition, you cannot invalidate objects that are served by an RTMP distribution. You can do this programmatically using CloudFront. Further, you can configure CloudFront to create log files that contain detailed information about every user request that CloudFront receives. These access logs are available for both web and RTMP distribution. After enabling logging, user can also specify the Amazon S3 bucket that user want CloudFront to save files in. CloudFront services are accessed using Amazon Management Console. User can create, edit, delete distribution in the CloudFront console. CloudFront can also be accessed from SDKs and APIs. One can have full access over CloudFront using these APIs and SDKs. CloudFront has edge locations all over the world. The cost for each edge location varies, and as a result, the price that AWS charges varies depending on the edge location from which CloudFront serves the request. So while creating your distribution rule, user chooses the price class. CloudFront delivers personalized dynamic web content at no additional cost without writing new code. With Amazon CloudFront, there are no additional costs for serving dynamic content beyond Amazon CloudFront's existing low prices for data transfer and request, and no required long-term commitments for use. There are no upfront fees, no monthly platform fees, and no need to hire expensive consultants to help them with configuration. The last important feature is cookie support. You can now customize or personalize the dynamic content that you deliver to your users. You can now tell CloudFront to forward some or all of the HTTP cookies that it receives as a part of the request to your customer origin server. Once you have done this for a particular distribution, CloudFront will use the forwarded cookie value as a part of the key that it uses to identify a unique object in its cache. User manages distribution and select which cookies are to be forwarded using the AWS Management Console. So this was all about CloudFront. Let's dive into the lab session on CloudFront.
For CloudFront setup, you have to log into your account. I am at the console and can see the services list on the screen. Now I will go to the networking and content delivery services. Here you can find CloudFront. Click on the link and now you can see the splash screen on your screen. Here it asks to create distribution. Before hitting it, see the region. It is a global region like S3. Now click on Create Distribution button. On the next screen you can see two options to create distribution. One is for web and other is for RTMP. RTMP is used to stream media files. Here we will create web distribution. Now we will complete this distribution form. We don't need to fill every field in this form. Default values are good to go. On the origin field, click there, you will get your bucket names and EC2 instances. So you can choose anything. For now I am going to use bucket named Aether bucket that we created in S3 bucket. Next field is origin path, we will leave it as blank and next to it is origin ID. Here we have default ID, I will go with it, need not to make any change to it. Mostly we would go with default settings. If you want to know more about the settings you can click on I icon against every field. You will get complete information about it. Next we will move to setting cache behavior setting. Here you can see path pattern, it is expression language to denote the files, here it is used asterisk, to get all the values from bucket. Then comes viewer protocol policy. In this you can see three types HTTP or HTTPS. Redirect HTTP to HTTPS and HTTPS only. We will select redirect HTTP to HTTPS. Then comes the methods to send. Here there is three options for it. One is get and head. Other is get, head with option. And third is get, head, put, post, patch, delete with option. We will go to third one, and leave the option part as it is. Then set the TTL, minimum value is 0. The average TTL is about 64,000 seconds, that is 24 hours, so it gives full 1 day to the process to execute. Leave the rest of setting as it is given. Now let's set the distribution setting policy. Price policy, you can select the recommended policy. Then you can give name for your domain. If you want to set alias for your domain, I will leave it blank. Leave the rest of setting as default and hit create distribution. You can see your CloudFront instance is created on the dashboard, but it is not deployed. It may take 10 to 15 minutes to deploy. We will wait till it is not deployed. Now it has been deployed. It took 15 minutes to deploy. You can see the domain name that has been created. Just copy the domain name, and open the browser. Here there is logo that is stored on the S3 bucket. See the image URL. Now I will paste the domain name that I just copied from the CloudFront domain and paste it after HTTP and hit enter. Now the same image is shown, but the URL is changed. You can see the URL as earlier it was S3 bucket URL, now it is CloudFront URL. If you want to add or edit your CloudFront instance setting, then you can go to distribution setting and edit your policy depending on your need. There are many settings. CloudFront helps you to avoid users from direct access to the S3 buckets. Now your S3 buckets can be accessed through distribution settings, and you can manage your sharing as well with it.
Hope you had a great lab session. So this was all about in this session of Amazon Web Services. Stay tuned for our next upcoming session on Identity Access Management. Till then, thank you.